A king whose hunger for glory and love twisted into obsession and bloodshed. A man who married 6 wives, 2 divorced, 2 executed, 1 who died in childbirth, and 1 who outlived him. He bankrupted his nation, broke with Rome, and reshaped Christianity in England forever. This is the story of Henry VIII, one of history's most dazzling, dangerous, and contradictory monarchs. His reign was filled with ambition, betrayal, love, and cruelty, a legacy that still echoes in the very foundations of Britain today. Henry Tudor was born on June 28, 1491, at the Palace of Placentia in Greenwich. Unlike his elder brother Arthur, the Prince of Wales, Henry was never expected to be king. He was the spare, destined for a career in the church. He was highly educated, fluent in Latin and French, trained in theology, music, philosophy, and the classics. He was tall, handsome, athletic, and charismatic, described by contemporaries as the very picture of a Renaissance prince. He jousted, hunted, and wrote poetry. He composed music and even played the lute. But destiny shifted in 1502, when Arthur died suddenly just months after marrying Catherine of Aragon, daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. At only 10 years old, Henry became heir to the throne. A year later, his beloved mother, Elizabeth of York, also died. His father, the cautious Henry VII, became cold and overprotective, keeping his only surviving son under close watch. When Henry VII died in 1509, 17-year-old Henry VIII became king. The people of England rejoiced. Here was a vibrant, strong, golden prince who promised a glorious new era. His coronation was extravagant, filled with music, jewels, and pageantry. Almost immediately, he married Catherine of Aragon, his brother's widow. Their union began with hope, love, and a dream of a powerful dynasty. For nearly 20 years, Henry and Catherine had what many described as a happy marriage. They shared religious devotion, love of fine clothes, and a love of display, but beneath the glitter lay heartbreak. Catherine suffered multiple miscarriages and stillbirths. Only 1 child survived, Mary Tudor, born in 1516, but Henry needed a son. He feared civil war would return without a strong male heir. By the mid-1520s, Catherine was in her 40s and could no longer bear children. Henry grew convinced their marriage was cursed by God, citing a biblical passage from Leviticus, "If a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. They shall be childless." Enter Anne Boleyn, a witty, intelligent, and captivating lady-in-waiting. Unlike many court ladies, she refused to be Henry's mistress. She demanded marriage. Henry was obsessed. But to marry Anne, he needed to annul his marriage to Catherine. Henry turned to the Pope, but the Pope, under the influence of Catherine's powerful nephew, Emperor Charles V, refused. For years, Henry's agents argued, pleaded, and schemed. His most trusted advisor, Cardinal Wolsey, failed to deliver. Wolsey was arrested for treason and died awaiting trial. Frustrated, Henry made a radical choice. He married Anne secretly in 1533. Soon after, Archbishop Thomas Cranmer declared Henry's first marriage void. Parliament passed the Act of Supremacy, 1534, making Henry supreme head of the Church of England. England was no longer under Rome's authority. This single act forever changed English religion, politics, and society. Henry had defied the Pope and won. Henry VIII's marriages are legendary. Each one tells a story of love, betrayal, and ambition. Catherine of Aragon, 1509 to 1533, loyal, pious, and deeply respected. Mother of Mary, marriage annulled after 24 years. Anne Boleyn, 1533 to 1536, brilliant and ambitious, but politically dangerous. Gave birth to Elizabeth, future Queen of England, executed on charges of adultery, incest, and treason. Jane Seymour, 1536 to 1537, gentle and obedient. Gave Henry his longed-for son, Edward. Died of childbirth complications. Henry considered her his true wife and chose to be buried beside her. Anne of Cleves, 1540, a German princess chosen for political alliance. Henry found her unattractive, calling her a Flanders mare. Marriage annulled after 6 months. Anne lived comfortably in England as Henry's beloved sister, Catherine Howard, 1540 to 1542. Young and lively, but reckless. Executed for adultery at just 19 years old, Catherine Parr, 1543 to 1547. intelligent and kind, acted as stepmother to Henry's children, outlived Henry, narrowly escaping charges of heresy. The rhyme taught in English schools captures their fates. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Henry's break with Rome was more than a love story. It was a revolution. Between 1536 and 1540, under Thomas Cromwell's guidance, Henry ordered the dissolution of the monasteries. Over 800 monasteries, abbeys and convents were destroyed, their lands and riches poured into the crown, ancient libraries were burned, priceless works of art lost. Monks and nuns were forced into exile, poverty, or death. This vast transfer of wealth temporarily filled Henry's coffers, but it also unleashed chaos. In 1536, rebellion broke out in the north, the Pilgrimage of Grace. Tens of thousands rose against the king, demanding restoration of the old religion. Henry promised pardons, only to execute the leaders once order was restored. Henry also expanded the Royal Navy, building more than 50 ships, including the famous Mary Rose. He poured money into palaces, fortresses, and wars with France and Scotland, but his extravagance left England financially strained, forcing him to debase the coinage, triggering inflation. The Henry who began as a dazzling prince ended as a bloated tyrant. In 1536, a jousting accident left him with a serious leg wound. The ulcer never healed, becoming infected and foul-smelling. Some historians believe this accident caused brain damage, fueling his paranoia and cruelty. As his mobility declined, his waistline expanded. He weighed nearly 400 pounds, with a waist of 54 inches. He could no longer walk unaided. His courtiers avoided him for the stench of his wounds. His once charming personality darkened into suspicion and rage. Friends and enemies alike met the executioner's axe. Anne Boleyn, Thomas More, Thomas Cromwell, and many others. The king who had been England's hope became its terror. On January 28, 1547, Henry VIII died at Whitehall Palace, aged 55. His death was kept secret for 3 days, while the council prepared the succession of his son, Edward VI. His massive body decomposed so quickly that legend says his coffin burst during the funeral procession, and dogs licked the leaking fluids. He was buried in St. George's Chapel, Windsor, beside Jane Seymour, the wife who gave him a son. Henry VIII left behind 3 children, who each ruled in turn: Edward VI, a Protestant boy king who died young; Mary I, a Catholic queen who tried to undo Henry's reformation, earning the nickname Bloody Mary; Elizabeth I, Anne Boleyn's daughter, who became one of England's greatest monarchs. Ironically, Henry's desperate quest for a male heir ended with a daughter as the true savior of his dynasty. His legacy is both brilliant and brutal. He strengthened the monarchy, built a navy, and established the Church of England. But he also left financial ruin, religious division, and a reputation for cruelty. Henry VIII remains one of the most fascinating figures in world history, a man who embodied both the glory and the terror of absolute power. From Henry's reign, history offers us powerful lessons. Power without restraint breeds tyranny. Personal desires can reshape nations, for better or worse. Legacy is unpredictable. Henry sought a son, but his daughter Elizabeth defined his dynasty. Religion and politics are inseparable in shaping societies. Henry VIII began as England's golden prince and ended as its bloated tyrant. His reign changed the world, his choices altered faith, and his wives became immortal in history's pages. And though he's been dead for nearly 500 years, his story of power, passion, and betrayal still fascinates us today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of the past that shape the present.